What's up guys, Riley here from RP Productions, and today I'll be installing an R2C cold air intake in my 2016 Dodge Charger Scat pack with the 6.4 liter Hemi. So, had this car for, I think today's like give or take a week, and I'm already installing car parts in it, so that didn't take long. But I've done a bunch of research on what cold air intake to go with. I read a bunch of good reviews on the R2C cold air intake. My previous air intakes that I've owned personally 2, and I've installed, I think total in my life 5. But this is going to be the first non-oiled system I've ever used. All the ones I've used in the past have been oiled, so this will kind of be a trial and error thing. I'm going to see how it works. But today is going to be just the installation video, and then later, once I have some time behind the wheel with the intake system, then I'll be posting a driving video and explaining my initial thoughts when I first get it out on the road, and then after putting some miles on it, how it works. But today is going to be the installation video, so let's get started. Alright, so I ordered mine from Summit Racing, and it was about $200, so honestly really cheap. That's probably the cheapest intake I've ever seen that seems to be of a decent quality. But we're going to go ahead and do the unboxing now. I have not taken this thing out of the box yet, so no idea what kind of quality we're dealing with. I'm assuming that it'll be pretty good because everybody online seems to like them, but we will see. So right after that, someone gave me a free hat. That's cool. Thanks, guys. A bunch of paperwork. Okay, it's a box inside of a box. That's cool. Well, don't need that anymore. Alright, well, time to open this one up. Alright, so let's see what we have inside of this box. Off to a good start. Paper. Instructions, I believe. Thank you. That's very nice. Those will be of assistance. Alright, so we have, it looks like the filter tube made out of I guess it's a rubberized, probably whatever that polyurethane material stuff is. The little adapter. Oh, what else do we have in the box? Okay, here we go. This is the fun part. This is the filter itself. Now once again, like I said, this is a non-oiled filter. Really big filter. Wow, that's impressive. It's surrounded in this plastic, I don't know what you really call it, kind of like a little mesh. It's also on the inside as well. But this filter is actually really big, so cool design there for sure. Looks pretty badass. Here is the, wow. Okay, so here's like I guess where the existing airbox was. This is what's going to be in place now. And one thing I really like right off the bat is they already have this stuff installed. I don't know if all of them come like that, or maybe it was just mine, but if all of them come like that, that's awesome. Because most cold air intake systems, you have to sit there and fidget with this stuff, and it's a pain in the ass to get on. But it looks like they already got this one installed on there, so that's really nice. Pretty cool indeed. And then we have our box of basically just hardware that you will need for the install. So let's go ahead and get started. Alright, so to begin, I'm going to go ahead and start off by taking the this little cover off, and basically you just lift up on it and it pulls it right off. So just kind of put that off to the side. Now you're going to grab a flathead screwdriver, and you'll see 2 screws that basically hold on this portion right here. So the first, my car specifically, it's in the back, so I'm going to loosen this one up, and then I'm going to loosen this hose clamp up as well. Alright, so now that I got both of those 2 loose, I'm going to go ahead and put my ratchet on this and go to town taking off this little fender bolt. Now you're going to want to go ahead and unplug your factory mass airflow sensor. Pretty much you just squeeze in and pull out and put this off to the side where it won't get in the way of anything. Guess that'll be a good spot. And then there's a little hose back here, the crankcase vent hose, which you're going to try to slide off. And mine's on there pretty snug, so this might take a little bit of elbow grease. Okay, finally got that freaking hose off. If that's the hardest part of the install, I'll be okay. But that is honestly a pain in the ass. To get that off, I used a screwdriver and a little prying motion to help pop that hose off. But I don't know if you can really see it on the camera, but there's a little hose chilling back here, and that's not fun to get off. Alright, so now that everything is pretty much all loosened up, we're going to take off the entire housing from the car. So basically it just kind of lifts up out of place, and you take the whole entire box out. Originally, I think a lot of people would try to unscrew these little Phillips head screws that hold the top part in, but you don't need to do that. Basically just do the screws I did, and this whole entire giant thing will come right out of the car. Now when you take this out of the car, you'll notice right up here where the original mass airflow sensor was, you're going to take this out. Be very careful, it's kind of fragile, so, oh excuse me. But basically take this out and set it aside, be very gentle with it, and kind of guard it with your life, because you don't want anything bad happening to that little black piece right there. Okay, now you're going to grab that black little hose and this 90-degree elbow, and you're going to fit that in this hole right here. Now, to go ahead and figure out which way you're going to put it, you can go ahead and test fit it right now. And you need this little elbow to be facing the passenger side of the car, because it's going to install right back into that hose that was a pain in the ass to get out of the stock airbox. So pretty much, if you just grab it and put this into that hole as far as you possibly can and make it flush, then that will be good for that. Alright, so the next step, you're going to go ahead and screw in this little, let's see if I can get it on the camera, this little fender bolt thing. Basically you just stick the large bolt into pretty much the only thing that it'll fit into, over here on the corner, pretty much the only possible place a big bolt could go into on the housing. So I've got it kind of started. It said leave it loose until it gets installed, of course. So basically go ahead and do that, and now what we're going to do is install this piece right here into the housing right here. So it's basically going to go like this. So the skinny part will be on the outside, and the part with the wider opening is where the filter is going to connect to. So to do this, it's going to be really hard to show this on camera, but there's these little screws that were provided. You're going to put a locking washer on one side, and then you can put the other washer on the other side, and then fit it to this. So I'm going to try to do that now. Don't know how well this is going to show up on camera, like I said, but we're going to attempt to do this the best we can. Okay, so as I'm sitting here doing this, I figured out the best way to do it is put the housing on its side, and then you can kind of feed the bolts through and put a washer on the other side, and they'll all stay in the housing. Pretty straightforward. So far the installation has been a breeze. So now I'm going to grab this piece right here and line it up with the bolts that you just put in. And this part might kind of be a pain, but we're going to do our best to just kind of lightly thread them. Alright, so once again, I don't know how well that picked up on camera, but I got them all hand threaded, so now I'm going to go back in here and pretty much tighten all of these up, you know, pretty snug. Just kind of go around, kind of like lug nuts. You don't want to overdo one and forget about the others. So you're just going to sit here and tighten all these suckers up, and then that step will be complete as well. Alright, so the next step, I'm going to do this a little out of order, but you're going to grab one of the bolts that was provided, this little bracket that was provided, and this nut that was provided, and you're basically going to insert the screw and nut, or screw and washer on one side, and put the bracket on, and then screw this nut on here to make it where this fits nice and snug. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab the housing and the tube, and I went ahead and put a hose clamp around it. Now pretty much what you're going to do is fit these two pieces together and tighten down on the hose clamp. Okay, so now I got that all put together. Pretty simple. You just put the hose clamp around both the pieces. And so now we're going to pretty much start installing stuff back into the car. Okay, so now comes the kind of tricky part of installing all this stuff back into the car. Now you're going to have three things that basically hold this into place. Number one being that right there, which is going to go, let's see if you can see it on camera. There's basically a hole right where I'm pointing, and that's what that fits into. Number two is going to be this little bracket you installed up here, which is going to connect right here to the existing, I guess it's a, not really a fender mount, that thing right there. And number three, you're going to connect this hose clamp up here to the throttle body. Now the instructions say to worry about the little wheel well one first. I'm not sure which way is going to be easiest. So we're just going to have to figure this out as we go along. Alright, so got that around the throttle body. That part was relatively simple. Now step number two, what I'm doing, is installing this into the fender bracket, and that's the one I feel like I'm going to have some trouble with, but we will see right now, I guess. Okay, so what I had to do is I have the little rubber thing in that hole right now, and so I'm going to try not to let go of it, because if I drop it that would really suck. But yeah, this is definitely not going to be easy doing it this way, but it's just a pain in the ass to get that thing in there. Okay, so finally I got that stupid thing in that hole. Now I'm going to slowly start to bring this around where the throttle body goes. You know, really tight fit on all of this stuff. Let's see, what's the best way to do this? Okay, we're going to try to open this as much as we can. Ow. My finger stuck. I read online, you know, people were saying it's a tight fit. They weren't lying. Tight fit indeed. Okay, there we go. Finally got that around the throttle body. Got that thing in the fender. And now I just need to adjust everything to make it all fit nice. Okay, so still tightening this up. I went ahead and tightened that hose clamp on the throttle body. Got it pretty snug. The only thing I have not tightened down basically is this bolt right here in the fender. But you know, I read online, everyone was like, you know, it's a really tight fit, just be prepared. And definitely true with this intake. It's it for sure is a tight fit, but it doesn't seem to be putting a strain on anything, which is good. So I don't think that there should be really any problems, but you know, just doing some final last minute adjustments. Once you get to this step, you're really pretty much done with the intake, aside from installing the filter. But you know, so far pretty simple. And so I guess I'm going to go ahead and reinstall this hose back onto this here fitting. So that just slides right over. Which, you know, I'm just not a fan of hoses. They're not my friend. That might help. Word of advice to the viewer, if you use some type of lubricant to help you slide this hose over. Because, yeah, it definitely is pretty tight getting that on there. Alright guys, so I just got everything pretty much tightened down, was going to go ahead and do some test fitting, and I ran into two problems. Problem number one, the way this slopes, when I was closing the hood, it really wasn't allowing the hood to shut all the way without it being in a real bind. So problem number two was when I was test fitting this back where it goes, which kind of sits right like that. The little hose that was coming out right here was hitting on this part right here. So got Mason from Mopar Garage. He heard what I was doing and he came over here. So Mason's got that little hose and he cut off that much of it. So now we should have a clean hose that comes out through this hole, which connects back into this little elbow joint. So that should take care of that problem. And then the problem about the fitment, what we went ahead and did, kind of poor lighting, but we went ahead and bent this. It's just kind of like some thin sheet metal, basically. We went ahead and bent it back a little bit, and that allowed us to kind of lower this. So, you know, I guess it just depends on how your fitment is. If it fits, then perfect. But if you have to problem solve, that's the two things that we had to do. So now we're going to be in the process of installing that little hose right back where it needs to go.
And that might be just a little long still, we'll see here once we get it in. So
It looks a lot better.
get here and get the half cover on. Let's see. That should work for you.
Yeah. Perfect. So that comes out right where we need it to. Alright guys, well I believe we've got everything pretty much installed. So now comes the part of slipping this filter on. Let's see.
Go nose first.
Nose first. Okay, this is going to be a tight fit as well.
May have to loosen the box again.
Yeah, that might be...
At least you know it's not going to come out.
Oh, there we go. Okay, so you go butt first.
Always butt first.
Always. And so, fits in there pretty nicely, doesn't seem to be rubbing on anything. So Mason, if you want to just tighten that sucker down, I think that we would be good to go. Alright guys, so now that we have everything installed, what you want to do is double check your work, make sure every hose clamp is nice and snug, and just make sure you did everything properly that first time putting everything in. So like this one, I left it a little bit loose for adjustment reasons. Same goes for this right here. Pretty much, you know, just make sure all the hose clamps are in the right position. Make sure everything is nice and snug. And now, usually a few days after driving it around, you'll want to come back and check it again to make sure nothing has came loose, because the heat will have an effect on all of the parts in here and kind of make stuff stretch out and stuff like that. So just, you know, double check your work periodically. But for now, I believe we have the entire installation done. So I'm going to go ahead and start her out, make sure we don't have any check engine lights, and should be it for today. Alright guys, first start up with the R2C cold air intake. Let's see how she sounds. Definitely hear it. Oh yeah. Alright guys, well there she is, all nice and installed. Sounds really nice. So you know, stay tuned for the driving portion of this video, but for now, install video sounds good. No codes were thrown. You know, it's gonna be pretty fun experimenting with this sucker and seeing how temperatures do and how the driving conditions and everything and throttle response and power, etc., how all of that does. But for now, everything looks pretty good. Overall, not overly impressed with the system, the design of everything, the fitment. I mean, this PVC pipe right here is pretty thin, but it's got really thin, smooth walls, which is going to be better than that original airbox over there. So, you know, we'll just have to wait and see for the driving portion, how it drives. But for now, Riley out. Mason, go subscribe to Mopar Garage.
Yeah.
And
when I'm around shit.
he's not dead. He's still alive. All right, guys. Well, stay tuned for the driving portion, and I'll see you on the next one. Take it easy.